Well, let's just jump right in. And I'll tell you the first question I'm asking these days is the show still on? I mean, as of right now, we're still doing Furnace Fest, I believe, right?
Yes, everything's still on. It seems like they're hell or high water. They're determined to do this.
Yeah.
I know there's a few bands that have dropped off, but they're trying to, and they've said it on social media that they're trying to add new bands if other bands drop off. So
yeah,
and they've done pretty well about doing that so far.
It's a weird time. I mean, I know you guys are back in the fray. What's it like now compared to late '90s? There was none of this. It's a different world, isn't
it? Yeah. I mean, our bass player Aaron, he says it the best. He's like, this is the greatest midlife crisis we could have. To get asked 20 years later, after our heyday, to come back and do it. I mean, what more could you ask for? This is the greatest comeback, to have. So
yeah. Now you talk about calling it quits. When a band calls it quits, because you guys you all started pretty hot, and then you kind of ended things, but it didn't end bad for you guys. You just came to a point where that was the end of the line for you.
The thing is we were all married at that point. And I don't want to put Chris on Front Street, but at that time, he was really having some issues in his personal life and his marriage at the time. He's not married to that, the same person now, but at the time he just felt like part of it was feeling like a hypocrite to keep on doing this and, projecting like a very Christian band like we were, but then his life was kind of in shambles at that point, so he wanted to concentrate on that, and we weren't going to go on without Chris.
Sure.
So we just respectfully just decided to call it quits, and that's what happened. But we never stopped hanging out. We've all been best friends. It's just like a club. We're just like a gang of friends, and we've gotten together over the years consistently. And I think from time to time we've tried to come back to it, and just for whatever reason it didn't work out. And I think we'd all kind of just given up on it totally. And then here comes Chad with the proposal to do the 20-year reunion of Furnace Fest.
Yeah.
And then, here we are. My first introduction to that style of music was Live and Sacrifice and Zayo. I was more like secular. I came from like the secular world. So it was like, I was from the Headbangers Ball days, like the original Headbangers Ball days. So, for me, it may not be as nostalgic as it is for others, but there's definitely bands on there that I'm really stoked to see. Some younger bands like Knocked Loose, I've seen them play. They're ones to see, and a lot of people say that, but after seeing them at LDB in Louisville a couple years ago, like right before the lockdown, it was amazing. I'm really looking forward to seeing those guys.
Yeah, they're playing Growlers in Memphis a little bit before that.
Yeah,
I think September 8th. So I'm going to go see them at Growler.
But I went a couple weeks back, actually. The Obsessed played there, so we went to that, and but we're actually supposed to play there the night before we play Furnace Fest with Every Time I Die.
That's right.
And 18 Visions.
That's right.
So,
I plan on being there. I love those small venues because it's really loud, and that's, I guess, how you guys grew up playing in those venues that people are like in your face. And
oh yeah. Growlers is pretty small. Actually, when we started out playing, it was a place called Barristers downtown, and it was actually a nice sized place. But that, man, we missed that. We missed that place so much. Aaron and I used to go to shows there. We went to see the Jesus Lizard, play there, and David Gow just went nuts. He was climbing on the balcony, doing all the stuff he does. Saw a lot of great shows there, but that's really where we cut our teeth, is on that stage. Right. And then we played like other stages. We played the New Daisy,
Right.
But our favorite was those smaller places, man.
They're so much fun. We saw Parkway Drive over at the Tabernacle in Atlanta, and that's a mid-range venue, I guess, but
Yeah.
small field. It was absolute insanity in there, and we watched from the balcony, looking over that pit. It gives me chills. I mean, I guess I'm so entrenched with this music. How deep are you into the scene right now? What are you listening to? Are you still very much into the heavier side?
For a lot of years, I wasn't. I mean, that's kind of the same with all of us. But Aaron joined up with Reserving Dirt Naps a couple of years ago, and that kind of brought him in. And I became, because I'm friends with Aaron, I was very supportive of what he was doing and the guys in the group. And they asked me to come down with them and play LDB. So I was like on second guitar. They don't have a second guitar player, but they invited me to come in and like play solos and stuff like that. So I got to play with them, and that kind of like energized me being back up on stage and playing in front of people like that. I was like, wow, it brought me back in. So it's got me energized about the guys like Knocked Loose, Drain, Tsunami. A lot of those West Coast hardcore bands, that are coming up. Like I'm really digging on that stuff.
I have not seen Knocked Loose yet. I love their stuff. I'm thrilled to see them. I hear their show is just like off the chart energetic.
Oh yeah. I mean the crowd, at least for the show that I saw, the crowd went nuts.
Yeah.
I mean they were jumping off the big tall monitors on the side of the stage, just diving, about to knock it over on the crowd.
That's what I'm expecting. I'll be disappointed if I don't see that. So that's what I'm expecting.
Oh yeah, I hope so.
You mentioned early Headbangers Ball. When did you first get into? And I've heard you mention this on a podcast or two, but what was the first band you really kind of opened the floodgates? You thought, wow, they make it this heavy?
Well, thing is I'll tell you, I was always more drawn to heavier, rock, harder rock, so like when I was a kid, there was the Quiet Riots and the Twisted Sister, but really like the two things that got me into like really wanting to play music was Blizzard of Oz, Ozzy, and AC/DC Back in Black. I mean, that's my Ratatouille, that's what I will always go back to. I just never get tired of it. But I would stay up every Saturday night watching Headbangers Ball. So I was big into Testament and Exodus, like all those, there's like the big four, there's Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax, but then there's like the guys that are, the surrounding guys that I really enjoy, like Overkill, like groups like that. So that old thrash, which oddly enough is sort of coming back around, in vogue, which is nuts.
Right.
I was born in the wrong time, apparently, because that it was just right up my alley.
Yeah. That big four is funny to me because I love all the big four. But like you said, there's always that outsider that people want. Like if you ask me, I want Pantera in the big four because Pantera is such a powerful band. I mean, and it's time tested. I mean, it's never going to go away. I think, and I love all those guys. But if I had to take one out of the big four, who do you take out of the big four to put one more band in? Can you remove one of those guys? I'll start. For me, and for the sake of blasphemy, I take Anthrax out. I love Anthrax.
I would say that too, just because they're because they're kind of goofy, like they're not, which is great. That's what I love about them, because as a band, Feel Left Standing, we're pretty goofy. I mean, we're basically like Jackass or Jackass for a band.
Yeah.
And so like I get it. They're kind of taking the piss out of the mean, evil thing. They're just kind of just doing, just doing something different. But yeah, I would say they don't really. As far as the big four, those guys, you can take them out and put somebody else in, like Exodus or Testament. Yeah.
Well, if a lot of people see this, we'll wait for the tweets to come in, because there'll be people who say, "I can't believe you're changing the big four." Don't change the big four.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I love Anthrax. I've seen it several times. I love those guys.
No,
But
totally.
if you have to make me take somebody out, Anthrax would definitely be the one.
Yeah. So how do you guys? I'm sure you've talked and talk as much or as little as you want or don't want. The whole COVID crowd thing now at concerts. We've been to several now. My son and I go. He's 13, so we go to a lot. There are
Yeah.
people who think we all should be vaccinated. We shouldn't be vaccinated. We should go. Are you guys nervous at all about getting on stage? Of course, you're kind of separated, but the style you guys play, you're not really separated from the crowd. I mean, the crowd's very much a part of the show. Any nerves
Right.
at all? Has it changed the way you kind of approach the set?
Well, no. I mean, yeah, I mean, you're right. Because when we started, I was talking about barristers. We would play, like John would be on the stage with his back to the crowd, and we would be on the floor, with everybody surrounding us. Of course, that didn't happen, as we went on.
Mm-hmm.
But we're all like we're like four blue collar, guys. We've had to work out. We haven't had jobs where, we're isolated. We can just work at home.
Right.
We've all pretty much been out in it and had to navigate it as best as possible.
Sure.
Like my job, I mask up. We're all vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to deal with it the best you can.
Mm-hmm.
None of us are really scared of it just because life has to go on at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But we are concerned, as anybody else. It's just kind of like, what are you going to do? Are you going to hide in the house, or are you going to try to get back to some sort of like normalcy?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And of course, everybody's just ready. Everybody's just ready to like get back to it. And
right.
Now it's seeming like things are clenching up a little bit. So
yeah, kind of just when we got back going a little bit, it's kind of. I told somebody the other day, I said, it's kind of like watching the news now. It's like watching a replay of the news in March of last year. It's the same thing. And I know we saw Corn over in Alpharetta near Atlanta.
Yeah, I saw the video.
Oh, so much fun. And you could tell when Corn hit the stage, even Stain. So I'm not a huge Stain guy. Stain blew the roof off the place. They've got so many songs that people know. It's kind of like Shinedown. Everybody knows every single song. And so they were great. But you could tell when Corn hit, it's like people are ready to release everything they've held up for 12, 18 months. And you can really feel the energy in those places. So I'm really hoping we're going to stick to it. And I think the bands feed off of that. I really do.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. I mean, we're, Chris has been the one that's in increments. He's kind of gotten back into it, because at first when we started getting together to practice, he was like, man, I just don't know if I can do this with my voice, but then because he was trying to rehearse in his truck, he was trying to do the voice in his truck. He was like, man, I'm just disheartened because it's just not sounding like it, did. But then once he got in the practice space with the PA,
right.
he's like, oh yeah, he got energized. But then he was trying to stay reserved with his voice, because he didn't want to blow it out or whatever. And we finally just told him, it was like, dude, just imagine you're at a show in this room. Do what you got to do. And once he did that, once he just like the full body thing, happened, like he's putting his foot up on the, kick drum, like just really, going after it. Like that's when it kicked in. So we're hoping that for him, whenever he's out there in front of that crowd, like he's just going to come alive, which he always did. So, and I see no reason why he wouldn't.
Yeah.
For Furnace Fest.
And here's a question I've asked a couple bands, secular and Christian. I've never been a big fan of the term Christian rock. I kind of like, there may be four guys who are in a rock band or a metal band happen to be Christians. How do you feel about that? Because back in the 90s, there was a lot of things that were labeled Christian rock, like you went for Christian rock. Now, you got bands like Red, and of course, Head and Fieldy and Korn are both professing Christians now. You won't call them a Christian band. How do you feel about that? Is that a fair term to put on a band?
I mean, I guess it all depends on how you present yourself in the first place. That's you're setting yourself up. It's I understand under oath, has had issues with that. They started out a very, Christian,
Right.
band. And then, of course, as time went on, they tried to sort of shed that. But you're obviously going to have problems when you start out that way. And then look, as everybody gets older, you're obviously not as militant and as I mean, I hate to say not passionate, but you're just not as prone to like in your face about things as you get older. So I understand them wanting to, not be labeled. But a lot of it just depends on how you present yourself in the first place. And with Feel Like Standing, we made no bones about it. We just presented ourselves as a Christian band, not as a band of Christians, but as a Christian band. So we weren't afraid of that. Right. But, of course, we didn't go on like Under Oath did.
Sure.
And,
sure.
As you get older, you change. And I was thinking about this today about how, there's always that thing is, bands that come back after 20 years, and we get this, are you going to do new material? Are you going to write new songs? Mm-hmm. And I mean, the honest answer is we would love to. You'd love to like validate whether or not you can actually come back and you can bring it, Mm-hmm. And, but the thing is it's like a moving target, especially because it's all about perception. The person that's listening after 20 years has changed and they've grown. The things they like are not the same, especially the musicians. So, there's really no way the expectation is going to meet, what you have in your head. If you, as time goes on, you want to branch out and not be known for one particular thing, I get that. Sure. I don't hold that against anybody.
Sure. I heard you mention on one show that, not where you were playing, but one guy brought one of his friends, two of his friends, and was upset because I guess there was a little too much Jesus talk from the stage and he just wasn't comfortable with it.
Okay, yeah. This is something I was hoping would come up. One of the promoters of Furnace Fest, Johnny Grimes, if I met him, it was way back in the day. I don't remember, but I was listening to a podcast and he was talking about how he brought us up and he was favorable. It was, I can't wait to meet him. It seems like a very cool, guy, but he talked about how he talked about us in the context of we were a very confrontational band. And I was kind of taken aback by that because we never really saw ourselves as confrontational. Chris was very bold, mm-hmm. But his main thing he would always say was, we're scum of the earth. We're no better than anybody else. We have the same thoughts, as everybody else. We do not put ourselves above anybody as Christians, and if you weren't a Christian, it didn't matter to us. But, on stage, Chris was going to say what we believe. And he talked about how we had a song, Yellow. Mm-hmm. And we don't have a song called Yellow. What he was referring to is a song we have called Identity Crisis, where Chris says, the color yellow suits you best. His interpretation was that Chris was calling out the God-Free Youth crew that was around back then, mm-hmm. Around Birmingham, that would come to shows. But that song is directed at Satan. It was not calling out anybody. Mm. So, that was, what's that?
Interpretation.
Yeah. It was his interpretation of it, but that wasn't it at all. Like, Chris never called out anybody. But something that did happen that did make it into a song was after, I think it was Furnace Fest, maybe in the first Furnace Fest, Chris had talked on stage, and when he came off, he got surrounded by some of those God-Free Youth kids. And they were like, do you believe that BS you're talking up there on the stage? Chris was by himself until, one of our good friends, like, swooped in and sort of helped him get out of there. But they were like acting like they were about to jump him. And now this is what Chris told us afterwards. I don't know how we got separated from Chris and this happened, but that's where the song No Apology came from. But that's also on Wormwood. Yeah.
Right.
So, but he wasn't calling out anybody. Maybe Johnny had some, maybe it's mixed up, but yeah, as far as us being confrontational, we just said what we believed. Mm-hmm. We may have been a little bit bolder about it than other groups, but it is what it is. If you talk to us while we were off stage, we were never confrontational. We weren't, intense, guys. We're all pretty laid back guys.
One band I loved to see live, Skillet, of course, Memphis guys. I saw them at New Daisy with Seven Dust. So Skillet, they have a few songs that will be played in church. I mean, they got some light stuff. So we were at the Seven Dust show. I think Skillet played second. Seven Dust closed the show. So there was she was probably 60, 65, and I could tell she'd heard a couple of those light kind of contemporary-ish Skillet songs. But Skillet ends, and she asked me, she said, who's this next band? I said, it's Seven Dust. She said, are they wild? I went, a little bit. A little bit. Yeah. It's not crazy, but yeah, there's going to be a pit. Yeah.
But what I think's funny is that like all that new metal, like you were talking about Stain, Korn, eat it up. And it's like the new breed of like hardcore, like really embraces that. Whereas I know with a lot of my crew coming up, that was kind of like, you want to go to the underground. We didn't really, get into that.
Right.
But man, it has come around in a big way.
There was a time you were not allowed to love Megadeth and Korn. Like that was not a thing you could do. I mean, you just to me.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it was just that, man. I still know guys, of course, they're a little bit older, that are that way. Man, you listen to that stuff on like to them, like Korn is new. You hear that stuff they're talking about, all this sad stuff and hurting themselves and this and that. I'm like, look, old man, go sit down.
That is the thing. Some people just refuse to adapt and will not listen. I'll at least try some new things. And I don't love everything, but there's not much heavy stuff I don't really like. Are you into Spiritbox? Have you listened to Spiritbox at all?
I haven't. I know they're on tour with Under Oath.
Yep.
They're supposed to be one of the openers for Under Oath.
Starting in 22, because they were touring with Limp Bizkit. Limp Bizkit killed the whole tour. So they're going to start, I think, 22 with Under Oath. It should be
It's Under Oath, Every Time I Die, and Spiritbox, right?
Yes, I believe that's right. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, no, I haven't heard them.
Her name is Courtney. She's really unique. She can bounce back from the scream and just a guttural scream.
Yeah.
One of the most beautiful singing voices you've heard. And she's an Alabama girl. She's from Alabama, and she lives in Canada now. But she's from Alabama, so she's one of us. I mean, she's from down here. Wow. You got to check them out for sure. Spiritbox.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll give it a listen. Well, I know one thing that I kind of turned the rest of the guys on here recently was a band called Leached.
I have not heard their stuff.
Yeah, I came across them one day and it was blown away. I mean, it's real heavy. But you should check them out, definitely.
Okay. Leached, I'll check them out. The heaviest thing I've heard so far, and maybe the heaviest thing I've ever heard, Slaughter to Prevail. Have you heard Slaughter to Prevail?
Oh, the Russian guys with the mask.
God. It is nonstop. I hope when the world starts spinning, we can get them over here to the States. But that is intense stuff.
I mean, I think people are comparing them to Slipknot, but from what I've heard, those guys get like more like death metal than Slipknot.
Well, last thing, are you guys going to have merch at Furnace Fest?
We are. I mean, because Furnace Fest is really the entire reason why we're doing anything. We figure, well, we have to bring it with the merch. So We've got 2 different shirts. We've got 100 of some black shirts with it's basically like the line drawing for Wormwood. The head. I mean, the thing is we were fortunate enough to have Derek Hess do artwork for us, so we have to make that. Look, I mean, we've got Derek Hess doing our stuff. I mean, what the hell, So we've got the line drawing variant, and then we've got the one it's the red shirt with the full color. Guy with his hands raised in the flames, and I posted it on the Feel Left Standing site earlier today, so if you go there you can see it. But yeah, so we're bringing some stickers. Some guys did a cassette of both. They did like a run of like 100 of each release, so there's 100 Wormwood and 100 Regeneration. So we're going to have available at our merch table. They've done something like that with a bunch of different groups, and it's some of the money goes to charity, heart support, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a nice little thing, to have. I would love to have vinyl, but we just, it's like herding cats around here with trying to get stuff done. But maybe one of these days we'll reissue Regeneration and Wormwood. But I mean, having to like track down, that original artwork, we may just have to like recreate it somehow or whatever to get it done.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Jason, I won't keep you, man. I really appreciate the time. We'll be at Furnace Fest, and I'm looking forward to seeing you. And I'll try to look you up if you're out in the crowd.
Man, definitely look me up. For sure. All right. Hey, thanks, man. Have a good night.